In this session, I'm going to be covering pop-ups. The pop-up is CLA's high-impact priority alert. It does arrive topmost window. It pushes its way to the front of the screen no matter what application you open, and it is trackable. You are able to report on who has received it, who's clicked on it, who's snoozed it, etc. In order to set up a pop-up, in CLA you click on Modules and Pop-ups. Your pop-up screen will open. The left-hand side of your pop-up screen will show you the existing pop-ups that have been created in CLA. It does default to your active pop-ups, but by accessing this drop-down menu, you are able to see a list of all pop-ups, expired pop-ups, or pending pop-ups in your environment. The right-hand side of the screen is where you're going to create your pop-up. There are two ways to create the pop-up. Either you're going to work down this side of the screen until you've completed all the steps and click on Add. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to be working through the Create wizard just because it's easier to explain it as you work through each step. It is also the simpler way to set up a pop-up to ensure that you do not leave out any of the important steps. I'm going to click on the Create wizard. The wizard opens. You see here on the right-hand side that there are 12 steps in creating the pop-up. The wizard does take you systematically through each of those 12 steps. In this first step, you need to choose your link type. So basically, what will your pop-up open when the end user clicks on it? The no link pop-up is just an announcement. It's not going to open anything. It doesn't have a call to action. Something like, please don't forget that Friday is the deadline for submitting your forecasts. There's nothing that it needs to open, nothing that it needs to link to. The second link type is an image. It can be a PNG or JPEG image, an invitation, a collage of photos from an event, whatever you want it to open. Audio is an audio file, video, MP4 file. Ticker, it can launch the ticker on your screen. Document, this is any document, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. PDF is probably the most commonly used document link type. A website, so you are able to direct traffic to a specific URL. It could be an internet or an intranet article. An email in send mode, a CLA survey, or a policy. For the purposes of this, we are going to be setting up a document linked pop-up. It does want us to browse to the document that we want it to link to. So to click on browse, you then would navigate through your file system to the place where you have saved that document. We are going to attach the CLA newsletter. The warning that you see on your screen now says this file exceeds the maximum recommended size of 384 kilobytes for the attachment. If you continue, this item may affect network performance. Are you sure you want to continue? Provided this does not say that it has exceeded the maximum allowed size, you would be able to proceed by clicking on yes. If it did exceed the maximum allowed size, you would need to reduce the size of the document you're trying to attach. Click on next. It will take you to step 2. Step 2 is where you are able to enter your pop-up title. So the title of the pop-up we are going to put in is CLA newsletter. Right. You are able to change your font size, your font color, bold, italics, underline, however you would like this font to look. Click on next to proceed to the following step. Pop-up text is going to be, please click here to read the latest Hope that you find it both interesting and entertaining. Again, you can change your font style, your font color, etc. Click on Next, and it will take you to step 4. Your pop-up icon displays in the top left corner of the pop-up. We do have 3 standard icons that you can select from if you wish to use one of those. You are also able to import custom icons if you would like to create a specific icon for this campaign or this type of message. You also have the option to not show an icon at all. We're going to use our standard information icon and click on Next. Your date or time range is the range or the span of time that CLA will attempt to deliver this pop-up. So we are going to attempt to deliver it from now until next week, Friday, which is the 12th. We are also going to try to deliver it between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. each day. So important to note, this is a time range per day on the of the date range that you've selected. So in other words, starting from the 3rd of November right up until the 12th of November, on each of those days in between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., CLA is going to attempt to deliver this pop-up. Once a person has received and clicked on the pop-up, they will no longer have the pop-up delivered to them, as CLA will know that they have actioned it. Proceed to the next step. It gives you a warning to say, please note that this pop-up is scheduled to start at a date or time that was already passed. Because we have set our time range up to be 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., today, the 3rd of November, 6 a.m. has already passed. You click on OK, and it will take you to step 6. For step 6, we are going to make this pop-up dismissible. Dismissible will put the little X that we've become accustomed to into the top right-hand corner of the pop-up. It will allow the user to close the pop-up without viewing the attachment. So if the attachment is something that a user has to read and has to see, making a pop-up dismissible is not going to be a wise choice, as this would not mean that the user has in fact opened that attachment. You are also able to make your pop-up snoozable. You're able to define how long the user can snooze it for, how often they can snooze it. But for this instance, we're just going to make this pop-up dismissible. If the user does not want to read the newsletter, they don't need to. Click on Next, go to step number 7. Step number 7 is where you have to choose the position that you want your pop-up to display in. Traditionally, CLA only allowed you to have a pop-up arrive in the bottom right corner. We have, in version 7, added the functionality to be able to select wherever on the screen you would like that pop-up to arrive. So if the pop-up is critical, it does demand attention, you could make it arrive in the middle of the person's screen. For this one, we are going to leave it as bottom right and click on Next. Step number 8 is where you select your Popup Skin. You are able to use the default skin, which is specified within CLA already. It's set up as the default, and in our instance, that is what our default Popup Skin looks like. You are able to change your default. You are also able to import a library of skins, which would then be available in your custom skin drop-down list. There is another video available that will explain how to import a custom skin and make it available in this list for selection. Each campaign could have a very special skin designed for the look and feel of that specific campaign. We're going to use the default skin. If I just click on Preview again, this is your little dismiss icon because we've made this pop-up dismissible, the pop-up title, the pop-up body, and the icon that we specified. Going to move on to step number 9. Step number 9 Very important to note, do not repeat is the option that you will select on most pop-ups. Basically, this step tells CLA what to do with that pop-up once the user has clicked on it and actioned it. Most pop-ups should not repeat. If I have received it and I have clicked on it, I should not get to see it again. Repeat daily will mean that even if I have received the pop-up and clicked it today, I'm going to repeat it each day that you have set it up to be valid for. Repeat weekly as well. Even if I've clicked it and actioned it, I will still receive it every week. Do not repeat is the option that you need to select most of the time. In the target users step, this is where you define your pop-ups audience. For this one, we are going to target the group called CLA All Users. So just by typing in part of the group name, I am able to filter, find the group that I would like to target. It does show me the membership of that group at the bottom. Click on Add and move it to the right-hand side. You are able to target groups. You're able to target individual users, machines, IP ranges, until the point that the right-hand side represents your target audience. If you do need more information on targeting, please refer to the video called Targeting Explained, and you would be able to get more information there. Click on Next. It's going to give you your exposure summary. Basically, here it's showing you which group has been targeted. It's giving you the list of users within that group with their corresponding CLA status. This one is showing us that there are 9 members of this group. Only 3 of them are active on CLA. A user does need to be active on CLA to be able to receive this pop-up. So if you would like to export this report, you have got the option to export it to Excel, and then you would be able to escalate that to the relevant person in your IT department. If you click on Next, it gives you a little preview of your pop-up, takes you to your final step, which contains the preview, and it says this is what your pop-up will look like. Just from this preview, if you spot any mistakes, if you spot anything that needs to change, maybe you'd like to make the header of the pop-up bigger, you are able immediately at the top of this page here to go directly to the step that you would like to amend. Let's say we do want to make the pop-up title bigger. Click onto that step, make the change in that step that you'd like to make. Go back to your final step. It will give you the updated preview and again give you the updated preview on the last step. If there are no further changes that you'd like to make to this pop-up and you're happy for it to start going into your testing phase, you click on Finish. Finish is going to add this pop-up into your pop-up grid. In this instance, it's added it into our active pop-ups grid because the pop-up is set to start from today. If you were setting this pop-up to start, say on Monday next week, it would be a pending pop-up and you would need to go to your pending pop-ups drop-down list to find that pop-up. In order to preview a pop-up that you have already created, you're wanting to test that it arrives and looks good before promoting it, you would click onto the pop-up that you're wanting to preview. Make sure that it populates the information onto the right-hand side, and you click on your little preview button at the bottom of the screen. It's going to give you a please wait bar while it generates your pop-up. And when it arrives on the screen, you'll see it has arrived on our default skin with the title that we've specified, with the text that we've specified, the dismiss button because we have made this pop-up dismissible, as well as the information icon top left. If we do click on this pop-up, we're expecting that it will open our newsletter. It does open it. in PDF, and there it is. If you then close the newsletter or minimize it to read later, you're able to either approve that pop-up and promote it to live, or perhaps there was something that you wanted to change in the pop-up. If now that the pop-up has arrived in your preview and there's something that you're not happy with, if there is something that you'd like to amend in that pop-up, you click onto the pop-up again so that it populates it on the right-hand side, and you'll see your Create Wizard button has become a Modify Wizard button. By clicking onto the Modify Wizard button, it's going to open up your wizard with your 12 steps already completed. You're then able to go and change whichever step it is that you're wanting to change. So we are going to first change the effective dates. Let's say we've decided that instead of to the 12th of November, we'd like to run it until the 19th of November. Let's also say instead of monthly newsletter, we want to title it monthly edition. Okay. Go back to the preview, check that we're happy with the modification we've made to the title. If you are happy and there's no further changes, you would click on Apply. And please note that you are able to change any of the steps within this wizard. If you decide you want to use a different pop-up skin, if you want to change the body of the pop-up, if you want to change the icon, all of the steps can be amended in the same way. If you click on OK, it will affect that change on the left-hand side. To preview it, you again click onto it, make sure that it's populated on the right-hand side, and click on the preview button below. Right, when it arrives now, you'll see that our title has changed. If I dismiss the pop-up, it should not launch the newsletter. It should just close the pop-up. Once you are happy with that pop-up, it's approved, you've made all the necessary changes, you're happy for it to go live, the last step in the process is to promote that pop-up to live by ticking the relevant pop-up, clicking on the Promote to Live button at the bottom of the screen. It will prompt you for a password. You type in your password, and the message says you will replace the current live data with the selected staging data. Please note that this change is immediate. Do you wish to continue? It is our intention, so we click on yes. Selected pop-ups on staging have been promoted to live. And if you have a look here, your staging tab contains the pop-up, as does your live tab. And your live users will now start downloading and displaying that pop-up. If you need any more information on the staging and live tabs or the staging and live concept within CLA, please do refer to the video entitled Staging and Live Explained. Once a pop-up has been made live, you are not able to make any changes to it that are visual. So you would not be able to modify the title, the text. It tells you that this link is disabled because the pop-up has been promoted to live. The pop-up header has been promoted to live. The pop-up body has been promoted to live, etc. The only things that you can change on a pop-up once it is live is your date and time range, as well as your targeting. So you're able to change targeting and your date and time on a pop-up that has been promoted to live. Everything else becomes disabled once you have promoted it to live. So please do make sure that you are checking and approving the pop-ups before you promote them. To duplicate a pop-up, so perhaps there's a pop-up that ran last month or earlier in the month, and you're wanting to run it again towards the end of the month, instead of creating the pop-up again, you are able to duplicate the pop-up. You do this by ticking the pop-up that you're wanting to duplicate, and at the bottom of the screen, there is a duplicate pop-up button. You click on duplicate pop-up. It creates your duplicated pop-up on the right-hand side. Here, you are able to make any changes. So maybe we're going to add second. You change your time ranges, your date ranges, your target users. You can make any adjustments to the pop-up and click on Save Changes. It warns that it's only visible to staging users. We can see that the title is cut off, so we'll have to change the size again. You click on OK. And it creates your duplicate. We're going to change the size of that pop-up's title. So by clicking onto it, into the Modify wizard, let's change the size. Go back to your Popup Preview. It fits onto one line now. And Apply and OK. If you have promoted a pop-up to live, so like we have promoted the first pop-up, we've made it live. It is on the live tab as well. You want to make that pop-up stop displaying. You want no further users to see it. Perhaps you've put the wrong dates on it. Perhaps you have misspelt a word. Perhaps the event that you're advertising has been cancelled at the last minute. Whatever the reason, you want to make this pop-up stop displaying to the end users. You would do this by clicking onto the pop-up, clicking into your Modify wizard, going to your date range and expiring it. So you would put a date from that's in the past, a date to that's in the past. So in effect, this pop-up becomes expired. It says that the pop-up will be expired and will not achieve any further exposure. Are you sure you want to expire this pop-up? Click on yes. Click on OK. And pop-up number 1 under active is gone. It has moved into your expired drop-down list. Okay. However, pop-up number 1 is still live because your changes that you have made to the date have not been promoted. So the final step in stopping a pop-up from displaying would be to go into your expired pop-ups, finding number 1, promoting the expired one to live, so that your live environment would then match. That way, staging is expired, live is expired. If I go back to active, you will only see the one that we had duplicated in staging. We had not yet promoted that one to live, so you would not see it in the live environment. There is a delete feature on the pop-up. You are able to click onto the pop-up and at the bottom of the right-hand side of the screen, click on delete. It would ask you for a password and it would delete your staging and your live version of that pop-up at the same time. We don't suggest that you stop your pop-ups this way because it does remove all information about that pop-up, including the report. So you would not be able to, after the fact, go and pull a report to see how many people have seen the pop-up or clicked on it. You wouldn't have any record of that pop-up at all. At least by expiring the pop-up, you would still be able to go into your expired pop-ups, see what the pop-up said, pull the report on it, see how many people had seen it up to that point, etc. So we do strongly recommend that you expire pop-ups rather than delete them.